This is Angelic Voice ASMR, and today I got a pretty good stack of books here, and that's not anywhere close to what I'm going to be talking about today, at least in number. These, as you may have seen from the title, are what I read in 2022. But these are only the physical books that I read in 2022. And some of them I didn't even count on Goodreads. So, let's get started. So, first off, let me just reorganize real quick. That's more like it. Okay, so I've got a lot of books that were on audio as well. So I've got these. That were all in audio. So we'll go through these with the audiobooks included as to what I read, what I thought, that kind of thing. So first off that I read started off on January 17th of 2022 through to February 8th, and that was Sing Me Forgotten. Basically a Phantom of the Opera retelling with magic. And honestly, I had pretty good thoughts about it. Honestly, I quite enjoyed the concept of it. I didn't particularly care either way for the gender swap aspect, as I don't know how much it really contributed to it, but it was still rather good, and I may read it again. Next, okay, I'm gonna warn you, pretty much most of the ones upcoming are gonna be audiobooks, because I did audiobooks, and then I went through a ton of physical books, which was just a weird way for my year to go, but that's how it went. So next up is Disfigured on Fairy Tales, Disability, and Making Space by Amanda LeDuc, which I read listened to really quickly, from February 7th through 10th. And it was basically a nonfiction book, which, like the title said, focused on fairy tales, disability, and how that affected things, affected people, and just what we can learn from it. And honestly, it was a pretty insightful read. I don't know if I'd read it again, but it was pretty good. Next up, we have One for All by Lily Lanoff, read throughout the month of March. This was a really fun little, I don't want to say retelling, but spin or take on the Three Musketeers. Honestly, I'd recommend it. It featured disability or chronic illness, and was honestly pretty darn good, with a group of girls doing their own musketeering, so to speak, which was kind of refreshing, actually. Next, The 30 Names of Night by Zain Shuhadar. Shuhadar, I think is how you pronounce the name. Forgive me if I'm wrong. I read that at the tail end of March the 26th through April 1st. And it was good, but I did find it a little bit of a slog to get through. Just with the perspective flips, etc. Then we have Yesterday's History by Kozoko Jackson, from April 1st through April 8th. This didn't really find anything super special to say about it or anything. It was a good little read. Next, Written in the Stars by Alexandria Bellefleur, from April 9th through April 26th. It was a lesbian romance. It was okay. I'm not usually huge on romance, which is going to be ironic considering what I've been reading. But, it was okay. I don't think I'd read any of the further books of this author, but it was okay. Next was a reread, but this time in audio, as I have the novel in print, but it's back at it was at an inaccessible place, and I just kind of wanted to continue the series. So to do that, I had to read So You Want to Be a Wizard by Diane Duane, which I read from May 16th to May 27th. And it was alright. It was actually pretty good. It was a good little catch up on something I hadn't read since I was probably 9 years old. And it got me back into middle grade fiction again for the first time in a while, which was really nice. I really enjoy middle grade fiction, and I've really enjoyed this series so far. So You Want to Be a Wizard is about a young girl who discovers a book called So You Want to Be a Wizard. Fitting title. And it is about how to be a wizard. And she discovers this whole world of magic and finds out that she has to go on an adventure to go and stop this big event from happening. So she goes with her newfound wizard friend Kit to go and stop this trouble from happening. And it's a whole series, and I love it. Next up, we have probably my favorite read of the entire year, The Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdullah, which I read from May 28th through June 16th, and is basically a sort of retelling of the Arabian folktale 1001 Nights, which, honestly, I'm a sucker for the Arabian Nights. I'm a sucker for it. So this sort of take on it with gin and with a golden compass, brass compass, and just an adventure with all sorts, a whole cast of characters. It was just really good. I couldn't recommend it more. I am really looking forward to the second book in this trilogy. I can't wait. It's probably one of my most anticipated releases. Next, I think the next thing I started doing was reading The Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux. This time a translation by Lowell Bear. Now, you may notice a ton of sticky notes in here, and that is because I went, apparently I don't have the note on the cover here, that's fine. So basically I went through to check out all the different mentions of mental health within this novel, as I find it is an element of the novel that is not spoken of much, and I wanted to do a video of it on another channel of mine. few months doing that. Next, what I read was On Outside the Lines is a nice little middle grade book about a young girl named Ellen who is neurodivergent, and she goes on a field trip to Barcelona, to Spain, and just has her adventures there and what she discovers and what changes her worldview. Next we have Deep Wizardry by Diane Duane, which I read from June 25th through August 22nd. And that is the continuation of So You Want to Be a Wizard. So this time Nita and Kit, the two young wizards, go on a sort of deep sea adventure while on vacation that could have some devastating consequences. Now, this is the first time that I've read this book, and honestly, I did really enjoy it as well, and I'm looking forward to this year and 2023 when I can continue the series. I definitely recommend it so far. Next, we get back to physical books. I kind of read this in between my listening of Deep Wizardry, and this is Book Boyfriend by Chris Ripper, which I read from July 3rd to August 10th. As you can see, it's a very thin book, but it took me forever, because honestly, I couldn't get through it. It was probably my worst book of 2022, hands down, which is really unfortunate, because I wanted to like this. It sounded like a fun concept, but I'm honestly glad I didn't pay that much for it. Maybe like, I think it was like $15 or something. Yeah, it was like $15 or something like that, and it honestly wasn't very good. So, basically, this author ends up writing about his relationship with his boyfriend. And it becomes basically a whole thing. A whole issue, because that boyfriend didn't really know that he was being written about. And it's this kind of trouble between, I should tell him before the book gets published, but how do I tell him that I wrote about this whole relationship that we had, and I don't know, the writing style. I really didn't like the writing style in this. It seemed really try-hard with the language that was being used, which was really unfortunate. I don't think I will be looking for any books by this author again, which sucks. Next, we have an author that I do really enjoy, is Neil Gaiman. And this whole comic cannot fit on screen, but it is Sandman, Volume 1, Preludes and Nocturnes. So I've read this, well, this is 2 other volumes, but we'll get to those. I read this in the workup towards the new Sandman series that just came out in 2022. And I really, really, really enjoyed it. I like the way, the art, the story, the whole thing. And it's very Neil Gaiman, and I really enjoyed it. I liked this series as well, but that's a whole other thing. So I read the second volume because I heard that the series was, for the first those 2 volumes and really enjoyed them. And I also read the 3rd volume of Sandman, but I read it a bit later. I read these 3 throughout the month of August. I read the first 2 before I watched the series, and I read the 3rd one while I was watching the series, because I thought that the 3rd one might have leaked into like the series somehow, and slight spoiler alert, it kind of did. If you know, you know. Now, next book I read was another reread, Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones. Now, I love this book. I love the movie as well. They are quite different from one another. And I finally bought the 2nd and 3rd books, so the last 2 books of this trilogy, with full intention to read them. But I have not gotten around to doing that. I read this from the 21st of August through the 13th of September, and I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. It was a good reread. I love the character of Howl, and I love how much his story is gone into in this. More than the movie by Ghibli. More than the Studio Ghibli movie. But, it was quite good. I look forward to reading the 2nd one. And then we have the last book I read in 2022. Here's to Us by Becky Albertalli and Adam Silvera. It is the sequel to What If It's Us, or as I like to call it, Gay Post Office Boys. So, this is basically the sequel to Gay Post Office Boys. If you don't know the story, basically, 2 boys meet up in a post office, one dropping off a box of his ex's stuff, and one just dropping off a package for somebody, I believe. It's been a hot minute, sorry. Anyways, so they meet up in a post office, and it's this whole thing to find one another, and they have a great relationship that ends up, it ends up surprising them. I'll say that. So this is the sequel to that, where they're both in their own relationships sometime after the end of the first book, and how they interact, and if they get back together or not. And honestly, I was really excited for this book. As soon as I saw it on sale, I got it. However, I feel like it was overhyped. It was okay, but it wasn't as good as I was expecting. I wasn't sure really what I was expecting, but it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. So, it sure was a book. I don't know. It could have been better. But, yeah. So that was what I read throughout 2022. And overall, I think it was a good time. I started it on the last 2 days of December of 2022, but I obviously didn't finish it. It is one that has been on my to-read list, my TBR, as you will, for a long time. It is Once and Future by Amy Rose Capetta, or A.R. Capetta, and Corey McCarthy. Basically, it's a retelling of King Arthur in space, but Arthur is a woman. So, I picked this up for like $1.50 while visiting some family, and I picked it up for like $1.50 at like a Dollar Tree kind of thing, and I was super excited. As you can see, the dog chomped on it a little bit once I got it home. Cause, yeah, the dog do chomp, which is unfortunate. Fortunately, the book itself is unharmed. But that's not nearly as fun a cover as this is, so I'm gonna see if I can fix that up sometime soon. But I wanted to get this video out, so that's one that I want to read within 2023. I'll keep reading it, obviously. Another one I want to read, but mostly same reason as Phantom of the Opera, is I want to read Alice in Wonderland. Technically, I already have many times, but I'm going to be rereading it again. Technically, I reread it in 2022, but I'm going to be rereading it again in 2023 to make some notes. But this time, not on mental health, but on more queer topics, which I don't feel are a far stretch, but yeah. But Alice in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll has been a favorite of mine just to reread as a kid's book, so it's not too much to reread. And honestly, this one looks really thick, but it's one of my favorite copies because it has Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, Alice's Adventures Through the Looking Glass, The Hunting of the Snark, and Alice's Adventures Underground. So basically, this is the Alice's Adventures Underground is the original short story that Alice's Adventures in Wonderland was based on, and The Hunting of the Snark is basically just a collection of little nonsense poems by Carol. So, it's a great version. I love it. It's not the version I've been marking up, but I'm far from finished the marking up in that book, and I'm just going to be looking at the first Alice in Wonderland as well. The Alice's Adventures in Wonderland surprisingly heavy actually, has been Hell Followed With Us by Andrew Joseph White. So this one is basically kind of plague meets religious end of the world, you know, kind of thing. And it was just, it's a lot, because, you know, with the whole COVID-19 thing and all that, it's a lot to read through right now, but I'm slowly getting through it. On the lighter end of things, one that I want to read is Sir Callie and the Champions of Helston by Esme Symes Smith. As it looks like quite a fun little middle grade night book. So basically, girls learn magic, boys learn to be knights. Callie is non-binary and goes, "What the heck is that system? That's dumb. I'm non-binary. I'm either not a man nor a woman, and or I'm both. Like, this is dumb. Why can't I do both?" So, there we go. There's the setup. I want to read that. It seems a lot lighter and just kind of delightful as well. I also want to read High Wizardry by Diane Duane, which is the third book in that Young Wizards series that I've been reading. And, I feel like I'm going to be reading a lot of Adam Silvera, but I might also be reading History Is All You Left Me by Adam Silvera, because I've wanted to see how the OCD in that book is portrayed. Given that I am someone who has OCD myself, I'm also always curious to see how others portray it in media, as there's so much misinformation around it. I might link my channel below, my other channel, because that's why I read this. That's why I'm reading that. Yeah, so one that I'm looking forward to that hasn't come out yet, it'll come out in March, is Dear Mothman by Robin Gow. That book looks really interesting. Basically, Noah's best friend passes away in 6th grade, and he starts writing letters to Mothman to get through it, as both of them shared an interest in Mothman. It sounds like a nice little trans book. I'm really looking forward to being able to read it once it comes out. And I think that's all I'm going to commit to as far as solid. I'm definitely going to read this kind of books, because I'm not sure how busy this year is going to get, as there's a lot of things going on in real life right now that are going to be coming up in a few months, so we'll see. My goal is, once again, 15 books. Let me know in the comments below, what are your goals for reading? Did you find any books here that you want to read, or if you have read any of these books, what has been your opinion on them? I'd love to know and to be able to chat with you down in the comments. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and as always, I wish you